Of course, here's a rewritten version of your text, keeping the meaning but making it more polished and flowing. Are you free? Are you truly free? Free to choose your actions and make decisions? Or are you just an NPC, a character following a script, unable to decide anything on your own? You feel like you're in control of your life, even if it's just deciding what to eat for breakfast. But that sense of freedom might be an illusion. Physics might actually force you to move through life as if you're on rails, with no free will at all. You experience free will constantly. Like when you chose to watch this video instead of doing something productive. Free will means you can decide for yourself what you do. It suggests that the future is open, waiting for you to shape it with your choices. This idea is fundamental to human relationships. It's why we hold people responsible for their actions, and why our moral and legal systems exist. There are countless dimensions to this question: moral, psychological, biological. But let's focus on the core issue: is free will even possible? Philosophers have debated this for centuries, and while they might not agree with how we explain it, we'll simplify it into two main camps. Camp 1, you are an NPC whatever you are. You're made of your brain and body, both made of cells, which are made of proteins, built from atoms and particles like protons and electrons. In the end, you're a beautiful, dynamic pattern of particles, but particles have no will. They don't desire or decide. They simply follow the laws of physics, and most physical laws, as far as we know, are deterministic. This means that things happen because previous things made them happen, like in a game of pool. If you hit a ball with a certain force and angle, physics can calculate exactly how all the balls will move. Every collision, every spin, fully determined by the initial conditions. On a microscopic level, the universe works similarly, only without any player hitting the first ball. Every action and reaction creates a chain of events that stretches from the past into the future, linking everything together. Now imagine that right after the Big Bang, a superintelligent computer observed every particle in the universe, recording their exact properties. By applying the deterministic laws of physics, it could, in theory, calculate the entire history of the universe, past, present, and future from that single moment onward. But if you are made of particles, and it's theoretically possible to calculate their behavior forever, then you never truly decided anything. Your entire existence, your thoughts, choices, and actions were already determined from the very beginning. Would you like a few different versions? For example, more casual version, more philosophical version, more dramatic version. Like for a video script, tell me the tone you're aiming for. Of course, here's a polished rewrite of your full text while keeping the tone and meaning intact. The free will debate. Are you really in control? If everything was determined at the Big Bang, then your entire fate was sealed from the very start. You might feel like you're making choices, but in reality, you're just on autopilot. The movements of the particles inside your brain that led you to watch this video were set in motion 14 billion years ago. You're simply present, witnessing the unfolding of the universe within you in real time. But what about quantum mechanics? Unlike classical physics, quantum processes are fundamentally random. They can't be predicted with certainty. On the quantum pool table, balls can suddenly veer left, right, or even metaphorically, banana. Their behavior isn't fully determined by the past, but instead involves randomness at every moment. Doesn't this randomness give you freedom? Not according to those who argue against free will. They believe that randomness doesn't equal choice. If the behavior of the particles making up your brain is random, then randomness itself is making decisions for you. You're not deciding. Random quantum fluctuations are: imagine an electron that can randomly go left or right. If it goes left, it sets off a chain reaction in your neurons that results in you watching YouTube. If it goes right, you end up cleaning your room. The process is incredibly complex, but just because it's complicated doesn't mean you have control over it. Your choices are still determined either by strict causality or by randomness, but in neither case are you in control. So perhaps your fate wasn't fixed at the Big Bang but is instead being determined right now, moment by moment, without your input. Either way, you don't get a say. It's a bleak picture, and it kind of makes sense, except Nitrance shouts the free will camp. This is the wrong way to think about the universe. You are the main character, yes. Everything can ultimately be broken down into particles following physical laws. That makes physics seem like the only science that really matters. But there's a problem you can't explain everything by only looking at particles. One of the key features of reality is emergence, when many small things combine to create new properties that don't exist at lower levels. A single HO molecule isn't wet, but pour enough water on your pants, And suddenly, wetness doesn't exist at the level of individual molecules, but emerges when many molecules interact. Emergence happens everywhere. Reality organizes itself into layers. Particles gives atoms, gives molecules, gives cells, gives organs, gives you, gives society. Each layer builds on the one below it, but creates entirely new properties along the way. One atom can't store information. Billions can form DNA, which carries genetic information. Molecules aren't alive, but enough of them can create a living cell. And many cells create you, a conscious being. With each step up the ladder, new phenomena appear that can't be fully explained by the lower layers. This is where reductionism, explaining everything by breaking it down into smaller parts, starts to fail. You can explain cells by looking at molecules, and molecules by looking at atoms. But you can't explain human psychology by looking at quarks. You can't explain politics by studying cells. The layers of reality are both connected and largely independent. Events usually influence things within their own layer, sometimes a layer above or below, but rarely much further. If you want to understand how your organs work, you don't need to study particle physics. If you want to understand society, don't need molecular biology. Each layer operates by its own rules. No, shouts the no free will camp. You can't just use magic to explain free will. But the emergence argument doesn't involve magic. It simply suggests that trying to answer the question of free will by focusing on fundamental particles and physical determinism is a category error, like trying to explain a galaxy by studying your digestive system. This reductionist worldview has dominated science for centuries, but emergence challenges it. It suggests that free will may not be about randomness or determinism at the lowest level, but about the way complexity builds at higher levels. So which layer of reality is relevant to free will? Not single particles, not single molecules, not even single neurons, but the complex, interconnected network of your brain minus 80 billion neurons working together. This is the level where consciousness, personality, feelings, hopes, fears, and desires arise. This is where you emerge. We still don't fully understand how or why, but maybe that's where true free will lives, not at the level of atoms or randomness, but at the level of the self that emerges from incredible complexity. Would you like me to make alternative versions too? For example, more dramatic for a video script, more concise for a short article, more casual, friendly, more philosophical, deep gist. Tell me the vibe you're aiming for. Of course, here's a clean, polished rewrite of your full text while keeping the tone conversational, clear, and engaging. But here's what we do know: you are here, right now. How everything happening inside your brain combines to make you is still a mystery, but at this layer of reality, you are part of the process. At this level, you are just another physical cause among many that shape what happens in your brain. You are shaped by your decisions, and your decisions are shaped by you. You get a say in what happens at this level. You're not just a passive observer watching the universe inside you unfold. You are actively participating. You're free, at least. That's how many on the free will side see it. Conclusion and opinion. So, who's right? Is there free will? The truth is, we don't know. If you ask us personally, we find the argument for free will more compelling, because it recognizes the full complexity of the universe. Maybe existence really is just the sum of its smallest parts, but right now, it seems the universe is not that simple. And even if free will doesn't exist in some ultimate, objective sense, does it really change anything for your everyday life? We humans feel like we have free will. We experience ourselves making decisions every moment, as long as we're not certain either way, and as long as it feels like you're making choices. Isn't that good enough? Whether or not some unimaginable supercomputer could have predicted your choices since the Big Bang, or whether random quantum noise nudges your neurons, you still feel like you choose. And right now, you can choose what to do next. Maybe go, get something done, or watch more of our videos, your choice. Probably. But there's one thing you have less control over. While you may choose what video to watch, you have very little control over how information is presented to you. Behind the scenes, algorithms constantly decide what information reaches you, often amplifying sensational headlines over straightforward reporting. That's where today's sponsor, Ground News, comes in. Ground News helps you take back control by gathering news coverage from around the world and organizing it in one place, so you can compare different perspectives side by side. For example, when the UK government recently passed a bill to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda, the story was covered by over 150 sources worldwide. With Ground News Blindspot feed, you can instantly see how both sides of the political spectrum frame the Event right-leaning sources emphasize that migrants continue crossing the channel despite the bill's deterrence goals. Left-leaning sources focused on human rights organizations' opposition to the bill. This side-by-side comparison helps you understand multiple viewpoints, see how coverage differs, and have better and more informed conversations even with people you may disagree with. Visit ground.news nutshell to check it out. If you sign up through this link, you'll get 40% off the unlimited access plan. We think they're doing important work, and if you're not fully free to stop scrolling, at least you can control what information shapes your worldview. And finally, if you want to explore more mind-bending ideas, check out our Curiosity Guide, full of epic adventures to expand your perspective and make the most of your one short life. Would you like me to also create a super polished YouTube script version, a more casual version, or a more philosophical, reflective version? Depending on your goal, I can fine-tune it.